have to be responsible.
Okay, if I could have everybody's attention, can everybody hear me okay back there? I've got that voice that just penetrates the nerves and flies right through, right? Guys, come on in, grab a chair and just try to scooch in somewhere. I welcome, thank you guys for coming. Actually, we have quite a few people, seeing as how we didn't really advertise a lot, but I think it just shows a really great concern. I see a lot of people here that are the starters of community groups, longtime community groups, people that just have a great concern for their city. You know, just this past week, about a week ago, we had a committee of the whole regarding rentals and landlords, and I personally thought it was one of our better committee of the wholes. There was a lot of dialogue and a lot of questions and a lot of concerns, but what I thought was missing was a lot of input from the community. So, you know, we wanted to have this meeting today. We have 6,000 rental units in the city, rental houses.
Where's the largest portion? In the south end?
Yes, I would say so, yes. They're making a map of that for us right now. That came out of that committee of the whole. We have 5,000 vacant homes in the city as of right now. Myself, I would just like to be very open about all of that and, you know, see what we could do as a city to, number one, you know, bring homeowners in. Number two, get good landlords when we have landlords. Number three, hear your concerns. If you feel that there might be a not good landlord or something in your neighborhood that you don't feel is being taken care of. I know I myself, I'm serious about it. I've had a chance to drive around with Mr. McDaniels. I've had a chance to come down with some other residents here regarding businesses. And I've just been down here. Come on, Robin, grab a chair and just pull up. I think there's one right by Tomas, right, Tomas?
Yes.
You know, and I've had a chance, yes. I know Councilman Bacamino and I have done some driving around here, everywhere, north, 9-1, 9-2, 9, you know, 8-9, everywhere, you know. But I personally think we have issues. As a council person, councilwoman, you know, you have a councilman, I think we need to find a way to tighten up those issues. That's my personal belief. Now, if the councilman, you know, Councilman Bacamino is comfortable, I would like to tell you a few of the suggestions we came up at the committee of the whole. And then from there, I'd like to just quickly, you know, if you have concerns, if you have certain properties, you can give them to us. If you have thoughts to add to what we came up with at the committee of the whole, you know, we can't be your voice if we don't listen to your voice. You know, how can I be your voice if I'm not going to listen to what you say or I never have a chance to hear you? You know, we're supposed to be your voice, so that's what this meeting is for. I'm hoping that we can have one of these meetings every month on the second Friday with any concerns. The first one obviously is rentals, but from here it can be any concern. Something, you're the eyes and ears of the city, you're the heart of the city. You guys know what's going on way before it ever gets to us, you know? You know, the families, your schools, that's where the heart of the city is. We do have Mr. Vickers, our president from Centerline School District. You know, thank you for coming. Warren resident. There you go. Welcome, come on in and just pull up a chair somewhere that you can squeeze it in around the circle, yes. So basically, what I'd just like to start with, at the committee of the whole, we discussed, okay, and the thing that kind of brought it up for me is it became obvious to me through, first, you know, Mr. McDaniels told me a few things, whispered in my ear a few things, and some other residents whispered a few things in my ears, and it became obvious to me when we were doing a council agenda that the city sometimes is paying for landlords to have their homes torn down, their vacant, dilapidated homes. Or, welcome, Mr. Peters, come on, why don't you guys, just if you can you hear okay right there? I mean, do you feel part of the meeting? Okay. You know, so basically I asked for the committee of the whole regarding what can the city do if a landlord's in default to the city, if a landlord isn't going to pay their water bill, if a landlord isn't going to pay their taxes, if a landlord is going to try to buy a big hunk of properties, pick the ones they want and let the rest just decay, and let it go into abatement. What can we do as a council to make sure that they can't, renew their license? So that's one of the topics we discussed. If a landlord is in default to the city, and the taxpayers are going to have to pay to take down their properties, right? Then what the city can do, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman, from talking to the city attorney, we have the opportunity to, you can't take away licenses on other rentals they own, but you can stop them from relicensing them. So every 2 years, when they come up for a new license, you can say, well, you can get your new license, sir, when you pay your bill to the city, or when you pay your water bill. That's what we're looking at. Just let me finish 1 minute and I'll ask questions. Just one quick second. Absolutely. We wanted to make sure that you pay your bills. I pay my bills. If I don't, there's penalties. I have 4 children. If I have to go in and clean up their room, I warn them. And I say, well, if mom cleans it, then you have to pay me. Right? Very simple concept. No longer do we want somebody to come in and buy a large amount of properties, take what they want to rent out the good ones, and just sit there and let certain properties decay that's in the middle of our neighborhoods. You've seen them. They're in your neighborhoods, correct? You see the tags on the houses, Not all the properties are, but there's a good portion that are. Another topic we discussed was if there's a vacant home, we want to shut the water off. It's something we're still discussing. That way vagrants can't come in and shower and cook and do whatever else vagrants might do with water in a home. They can't live in a home. It's kind of hard to live if you can't flush the toilet, do things with water. So that's another topic we had. Go ahead.
One of the other reasons for that too, though, is that with sometimes, people scrapping illegally, ripping out copper, they don't care if the water's running. And we've had basements flood, of course, and that just damages the home and causes all kinds of stuff, such as mold and bacteria growing. So that's one of the things we're aggressively trying to pursue. I know Mr. Palachek brought that up, and we're looking into it. I think we're going to be discussing it Tuesday at the meeting of the council.
I think it's a topic at the council meeting Tuesday, which you should all be at. Yeah, if you can make it. And also, if you don't have vagrants, you have less crime. Abandoned homes do sometimes attract crime. It's a known fact. And then also you don't destroy the homes where the homes just go in more disrepair and sit there and slowly decay the neighborhood. Another topic we discussed was if a topic that we are going to do more discussing, but it was a committee of the whole, very open with it, and we should always be open, was possibly when renters move in a home, having them go to the city and, I think we're just looking at it, registering, a certificate of occupancy for the person living there, so they know who lives at my home, so they'll know who lives at that home. You'll know who's living and renting the neighbors' homes by you.
That would be very helpful.
Yes.
Just let me add to that. One of the reasons for that would be a lot of times landlords have renters and they might not fulfill their lease. They might leave within 3, 4, 5 months. Then the landlord gets a new renter. The city doesn't know how many times that house turns over. This would allow us now to know how many times the house turns over, which would give us a little more control than when renters come in. You might have a renter stay for 10 years and be a great renter, but a landlord could have 4 or 5 people within a year if people move in and out every 2 months. So that would register not just, but it would also give the city then a chance to come in and record who is the new renter and see if the complaints are the same as the previous renter. So it is something that will help us.
Okay, just one more before we kind of go around the table. Another one that's just sticking in my mind was if a landlord, if a house is found to be in disrepair and he fails the inspection, right now I believe it's what, 50 days? Is it 60 days? And then sometimes that's extended at the...
If they pull the building permit with 55 days, then they get an additional time after they pull the permit.
At the discretion of the inspector. So one of the topics that we discussed and some thoughts afterward, and Mr. Banya brought up a good point at the committee of the whole, and I appreciated it as well, was that, in my opinion, I don't know, I haven't discussed this with the other council really so much, but we want to bring that down to 30 days, fix your problem in 30 days, If you're really serious about it, you can get most problems fixed. And actually, the house should be kept up anyways as the years go on. You shouldn't wait till it's in such disrepair that you fail your inspection. Good landlords, they know that. They take care of their homes, right? But that discretion of the inspector line sometimes, to me, it puts a lot of pressure on the inspector. It should be 30 days. It's the ordinance. You know, that's it. That's the way I look at it. We're just looking at that. It's just thoughts. Those were some of the topics. But what this is tonight is if you're having difficulties, if you have thoughts how you think some issues might be taken care of, we want to hear them. And first I'm going to ask the lady in the purple and then Ms. Elva in the black, right here.
You could have one person speak at a time.
Yes.
I know we were at the city, we had a meeting at the city. Everybody means well, but it is hard to hear and record just one at a time.
Okay, I need to address this, Section 8. I'm sure everybody's in awe about the Section 8. So it is my understanding that they have their own inspector, and the city inspector can't, you know, isn't, oh, they don't? It doesn't?
They do have a separate inspector, but it doesn't allow them not to have the city inspector. It has to be, a registered rental has to be inspected by the city inspector, regardless.
It's likened to when I got a VA loan, I had to have the Veterans Association come out, inspect my property, but I also had the city inspector as well, just two different.
Well, I'm not sure that a few of your landlords here know this,
They don't want to know.
but they, you know, the Section 8, I was told a long time ago, I had one, next one I have, they're all over my street, and I live on Rivard. And I believe there's maybe 5 or 6 homes on Rivard that are not rentals, that the people own them and actually live in them. The rest are rentals. Now, I had understood that Section 8 had their own, you know, inspector, and they came out, and the city inspector. In fact, I was told that when I called the city inspector. This was about 6 years ago.
Get their name.
They have their own inspector, we can't do anything. And the Section 8 inspector, this home, there was actually sewage coming out of the basement floor. Actually, you know, raw sewage, I seen it, I smelled it. The woman was living there with children. Well, of course, it did, well, she ended up moving. The landlord gave her a different house. But I had to go in there. I had to tell him he was prejudiced. I really had it out with him because there was children living in that home.
The public health.
Is the home still up?
Pardon?
Is the home still there?
Well, he ended up fixing the problem for the next person that was living there because of the fact he told her, well, she was on top of it too. And she had children, and he told her, he says, oh no, he's that lady next door to you, she's gonna yell at me. Well, I didn't know because I wanted the city inspector to come out, because they do, you know, from what I understand and the experiences I've had through my friends and et cetera, they do their job. You know, the city of Warren.
One of the things that came up.
They have the same idea that you guys have.
Yep, public safety, welfare, public safety, you can report that, and the city can send out inspectors at any time. If you believe there's a public or health hazard, then the city.
Oh, it was terrible, it really was.
If-
Terrible.
If you ever feel that you're not getting an answer that you think is the correct answer, call me, you know, call me.
See, I didn't know I wasn't
Call.
involved like
Yeah.
I am now. I'm starting to really get involved.
Thank you.
Good,
But,
yeah.
I wasn't at the time, it was kind of new to me, you know, these Section 8s. Some of them aren't bad people, you know what I mean? But then there's some, you know, you see them come in, you see, you know, they rented the home to 2 or 3 people, you know, with 3. And next thing you know, there's 12 living in it.
Right.
I mean, you know, and then the kids are running it all over. I say, oh my God. You
So
know?
always, call me, call. If you feel you're not getting your answer, let me get Ms. Selva.
I want to make a comment. I have a house next door to me, and it took me a couple of weeks because we had snow in between, and I thought, oh, it's the snow melting. And it wasn't. There was water in the driveway. And I said, there's a problem. That house has been vacant for 9 months, 12 months, And I called the water department, I told them my suspicion, and I said, I want the water turned off at the street, and here's why. So I had reason, I gave my name, where I live. They were out there in less than 15 minutes, and they did just what I asked. So they're there to do for you if you give them, you know, what they need to go with.
Good, good. That's good to hear, you know. Larry, congratulations.
I just want to let you, I've ran across the sewage problem walking the streets all over the south end here. When we find that problem, you call up the 4662 number, 574 property maintenance. They will get the proper inspector over there, and they will immediately go over there. Not immediately, but within that days, usually send that inspector over there. If there is a sewage backup in that property, they will make sure either the landowner is contacted to get that fixed right away, because that is a health issue.
That's right.
Right,
We do
that's
not
the
want
health
that
department issue as
happening
well.
anywhere.
Yeah,
Had the terrible,
true. Okay, right
you
here.
know, these were-
Karen? Yes?
Well, my problem's a little bit different. The city did it wrong. My neighbor across the street from me had a sewage problem. They ended up coming all this on the street in between me and my neighbors. In the way the sewage lines or wherever they have those things in the ground was more in between my driveway than my neighbor's driveway. They dismantled my driveway. For 2 weeks, I couldn't get in my driveway. I had an inconvenience of parking. I went down to find out what the problem was. They said it wasn't in front of my house. It was my neighbor's problem of his sewage. But they dug up my street, my property. So I go, I can't understand what the problem is if I have the issue on my property. So I don't know where the boundary lines are for the sewage lines or who controls them, but I was very unhappy as a citizen. And I didn't know how to file a complaint because they have no complaint forms to file or put on record. That should be a flag. That should be an issue that when a citizen files something on record, you can go back and look at what the problem is and it's stated clearly. That's very simple letters of communication. Now, I know law is law and ordinances are ordinances. And privacy of people's property and owning also issues. So when you want compliance, it makes sense to ask for it first. So a very simple, polite letter on both sides. Because this way, you can be very diplomatic about it. You can give a person time to do it. I believe 30 days is reasonable. But I don't think 30 days of taking action is reasonable because sometimes there is complications, like the attorney always says at the meetings, it's complicated. But yet, when you have law on your side as a consumer, they don't want to hear that issue. They only want to look at the code of ordinances. Now, when the charter is in question, and there's ordinances on the books that I feel is in violation of the charter, how do we correct those mistakes? We don't. So when complaints are filed, there's clarity in the issue, there's clarity of who did what, there's clarity in the responsibility of me being the problem, or is it the problem of the city, or is it the problem of who takes care of these pipes that are not my issue. So when you look at the picture of the problem, you have to put it in proper perspective. Everybody can complain and make smoke, but it's the doing, it's getting it done. Very reasonable.
Did
Yes.
your neighbor's problem get solved? Because that was his, you said the leak was on his side.
I know a lot of times the pipes will come in and they merge together.
Yeah.
A lot of the
I know.
sewage.
Well-
But I do agree they could have knocked on your door and let you know what was
Yeah.
going on.
I-
That- A
I-
common knock on the door is always friendly.
Do
I
it.
agree.
And
I
your
agree with
complaints,
that.
if anybody has a complaint at the mayor's office, you can complain with your phone, or you can complain on the computer. On the dashboard, there is the dashboard means the part of the computer. You can click on there and file complaints with that, so.
And you can always call your council
You can always
person.
call them.
We can
Thank
do
you
that
very
for
much.
you.
Thank
That's
you.
kind of what we do.
One last thing, letter response back saying it's taken care of. Because that's proof to both sides that it's been taken care of. When I don't get a response back, I do a lot of letter writings, and I have a couple complaints still pending, and I don't get a response back. I think make a simple ordinance on the book saying, when you have a complaint, there's a procedure to file, and both sides should get a respectful response. I don't care if it's a no response or a yes response, but a response. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Anybody else want to add?
This is just a comment. It's only based on what I know from when I was small and lived in the neighborhood. It's the old part of Warren, and a lot of their sewer and water lines are not laid out the same way they are in the north end or other sections of town. So sometimes they work, the departments work pretty hard to straighten out the problem. Sometimes they can't hook on to where the sewer was. They have to create a whole new line.
One of the problems we just had, you brought that up, was a problem on the older sewer originated at one spot, but as they dug that spot up, they found that even though this was the origin of it, it did travel down, in this case was across Mound Road actually. So that's quite a bit of distance from the origin. It could be 10 feet, 5 feet, or 100
But I
feet away
agree,
from
you
the
can
origin.
knock on the door. A
Yeah,
friendly
no, no.
knock on
Yeah,
the door.
but
If you're gonna turn off
sure.
water and work in a thing, knock on the door. That way, if you're about to get in the shower, you can knock and do that. It never fails, you know, it's like, gee, no, you know. So, anybody else have something they'd like to add? Any, you know?
Yeah, I have.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead, Don. Well, first of all, I take care of some rental property, okay? And you were talking about how many people lived in a house. Well, what I do, when I rent a house, I have them fill out a form. And I turn it in to the rental division, okay? And number two, these water meters. I had, like I say, I've got some rental property I take care of. Well, I had one that's frozen busted. I had the water department to come out to change it. They put a box on it, they put the meter on it, put the little gray box on the wall, and guess what? They could not program it. They had to call these people that worked out in the field, drive these little white trucks, the supervisor, in order to be able to program.
Did they program it, the guys that came out, the supervisor?
No, the supervisor didn't come out. The guy in my water department called him.
Did they fix it?
Yeah, they did. But this is the point I was saying. If we're going to do that, then we need people to know what they're doing.
That's a good point.
And last but not least, talking about empty houses. I've got one at 8307 Cadillac. It's been empty for at least 4 years. 4 years. It's never been sticking. Why?
We'll find out. I'll find out.
I might enlighten you just a little.
One and then two.
I might enlighten you just a little, I'll hug. From what I've been told, there was a family living there. Somebody from Ohio come through and stopped, was gonna stay overnight and go on his journey. Well, he went on his journey, but they carried him out in a body bag the next morning. And the talk is that the state's got it tied up. But the thing about it is, hey, if I have to keep my property up, then what?
I'll find out for you tomorrow.
8307 Cadillac.
307.
Yeah, I think Don.
In fact, the gun's about ready, but it's falling off of it now.
Well, good. We'll find out tomorrow. I'll find out tomorrow.
Thanks, Kyle.
Don?
Yes, there's a piece of property across the street from me that's a rental property. That, it was occupied by this family. I think it was a bunch of people. And they had a lot of visitors, and they had a lot of noise. And they were there about 4 months, and they got evicted. And they pushed all their furniture and stuff outside on the lawn. It was just bags all over the lawn for about 5 days. And one day, this stuff started disappearing. I asked them, what's going on? The people that were evicted out of that house moved across the street, are in a house across the street. Now, if they get evicted from one, and I got a feeling it's because they didn't pay the rent, why did they let them move in the other one?
But that's a good question, but that becomes between the property owner and the landlord and the renter. That's their agreement. There might be a different landlord, the house across the street, who accepted their qualifications. The city doesn't have anything to do with that. They can move from house to house if there's a different landlord.
My concern is there were trouble where they were. And now they're somewhere else and they're gonna be more trouble.
But, you know, to add to that though, if you see someone that has something garbage like that all out in the front for 5 days,
Yes.
call and we can get somebody out there to pick that
Or
up.
special truck just come by and
Special-
take it up.
Yeah,
take it away.
Yeah,
that's-
it should not
that's the
sit out
main-
there.
Main purpose, you call a special truck down at the
Yeah,
station,
yeah.
and they'll
They'll,
send the
they'll
truck
come
out.
get it
That
and
day,
they'll
that
just
day.
get rid of
Yeah,
it.
'cause I used to work.
A lot of the furniture looked brand new, and I wonder if it wasn't from one of the rental outfits. Because one day finally it will all disappear.
Just gone. That's a good point about the 5 days.
Well, that would be too, see, if we get the renter to register with the city, the renter would have had to register. That's the point that Ms. Colisio was bringing up too, because then the city would be aware of that. Even though the landlords are two different landlords, that renter that was evicted then would have to reapply with the city, and we'd have record of that. Right now, we don't have
Yes.
that in place, so that's a good example.
What's your name, sir? Your first
My name is Philip Aiello. I live in Ford. Well, I've been there about 16 years. I grew up in Warren. I graduated from Lincoln in '66. I went to Walcott, went to McKinley. I have 3 homes on my street. One has been vacant 12 years. One has been vacant 5 years. And one has been vacant about 3 years now. I brought some pictures of the one here that's falling apart. It's got labels, stickers all over the place. People come in there and they squat in there. There's a no trespassing sign there, and everybody in the neighborhood parks there when they feel like it. I have a neighbor next door to me that Kyle mentioned about having in the landlord agreement that they can only have so many people. Well, they signed that agreement and they keep it that way for 2 or 3 weeks, and before you know it, I've got, I don't know, it's a 2-bedroom, it can't be over 800 square feet next door to me. And there's probably 8 or 9 people living in this house, and it's in and out, in and out. I know they're running drugs, I know that for a fact. I got another one living next door to him who has a drug dealer come to his house. I've been down to the city hall and complained to the drug administration down there about 4 years ago. They took the description of the people that live there, and nothing's ever been done. And it's almost 17 years I've lived there. Just the other day, I had a police officer pull somebody over and actually give them a ticket for speeding or running a stop sign. I got people coming out of Lincoln's parking lot in the morning and going there in the morning, traveling between 50 and 60 miles an hour because they're late for work and they're late dropping their children off. And I never see a police officer. Now, I love the Warren Police Department. They've done a lot of good things for me, and they know me personally. And they've done a lot of good things for me. But you just can't put a stop to this unless there is a police officer there in the morning and one when they get out of school in the afternoon. Another point I'd like to bring up is they have a marching band at Lincoln High School. Now, I'm 64 years old. I have a heart condition. I have blood disease. I have Agent Orange disease. I had a major heart attack when I was 48. I'm a pretty sick guy. I don't like to play the role of a sick guy. I'm still pretty strong, and I can take care of myself. But they got this marching band out there at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, making all this drum, bang, 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 all this stuff going on. The school teacher's on a megaphone, hollering his brains out, and you get no peace in your neighborhood. Besides that, you got school buses flying up and down Ford Avenue in the morning. You got the garbage trucks on Wednesday, and you got the idiots all during the week. So there is no peace on Ford Avenue. I put special windows in my house. I spent $1,800 to have the walls insulated to keep the sound out. And I go and try to talk to these people, turn that stuff down, turn that music down. They're sick people. I got a guy 91 years old lives across the street. He's an ex-police officer with cancer. And I go out there and I beg them, plead, and sometimes they get angry. And all they want to do is beat me up. They think they have a right. They have a right to play that music and knock everybody's brains out. But we don't have any rights as citizens of Warren to not hear that in my home with my television on. I got a Section 8 across the street. They pay $200. The landlord is collecting $850 a month from the taxpayers of the state of Michigan. They're troublemakers. They've had as many as 60 people at parties at this. They go in 2 brand new cars, big widescreen TVs. They bring young men into the home, lines of men, 3 to 4 men at a time come, and there's 2 women that live there. And this is continuously going on in my neighborhood, over and over and over again, for years and years and years. So I don't know if anybody can do anything. What we need to do is have a B-52 strike on the south end of Warren.
What I'll do, I'll make it though, I'm gonna call the superintendent of the school because this is,
Happy to talk to the superintendent over there.
I will.
At the school? Yeah, she made fun of me.
Well, that, she's
I
retired.
called her twice, she made fun of me. But they have the right to, I said, no, they don't have the right. I have the right.
Well, the thing is, we just passed that millage, and they have that beautiful football field.
And the gym.
On the other side. Go practice on the other side.
I've even called the police department, and they went over and said something to them. But then a couple weeks goes by, and it starts all over again. I'm a sick guy, man, you know, I need my rest.
I'm gonna call that superintendent. The lady talked, she's retired, so they have a new one. I'm gonna let them know of it and let them know the city noise ordinances.
That's why I wanted to know if you could speak to the
Yeah, so.
No, not to the new, I spoke last year to a woman superintendent, I don't know.
Thanks.
As, you know, as well as.
Very rude and very cocky.
If you could call me with the specific addresses of a couple of those houses.
Yeah, I
please
brought
call
some
me.
pictures in.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've got, call me with
Yeah.
the addresses.
Yeah, just come to my house, I'm at 8276 Ford, call me, I'm there all the time, I'm
You're
retired.
8276, right?
Yes, and if
Because I
you
don't
want
want
me
to
to
go
walk
to
the,
house to house, all the guys going in and out.
yeah, if you'd like me to walk the neighborhood with you, I'd be glad to.
I'm just kidding, it's like, want to make sure I have the right one, so we can get that.
I just have one more thing to add. So he's talking about Section 8. Section 8, the reason that people do what they do is because they get away with it. The Section 8 is not going to take away their Section 8 because it's too much paperwork. They can trash, and I've talked to landlords, I've talked to decent landlords that won't rent the Section 8 anymore because it's too much paperwork. You know, I said, because I told, well, that they just won't give them Section 8 anymore if they do this, you know, complain. He says, I did. He says, the people that were in my house, at the time before I had a chance, before I actually, the eviction date, they had another house to move into.
Right.
Section 8.
Right.
And the Section 8 told him there's too much paperwork.
Good point.
So they just went to another landlord to do the same thing. Really?
Yeah, I think so. Does anybody else have a specific house or, Mr. Peters?
I don't have a house.
Go ahead.
I wasn't at, my name's Joe Peters. I wasn't at the meeting of the whole, so I don't know exactly what was discussed, but when I was running for city council, I did a lot of research on all this. In a lot of the cities now, and correct, you can jump in and tell me that we can do it, you know. I'm not 100% on the city protocol, but the big thing that a lot of cities are finding, they're finding that they're in the same pit that we're in right now, whereas we have in areas of, or pockets of cities where the houses are of the lowest values in the city. And of course, they're just so, there's such an enticement for investors to come in, buy them low, rent them to anybody. But the things that some cities are doing is, can we set up educational programs for the renter and the landlords? They have to go through something at the city in order to qualify for being in that home or renting. A landlord comes into our city, they have to sit down with the rental department and say, here's what we're going to expect if you're going to purchase and rent a property in our city. Okay, this is your education right now. And you're going to sign a contract with the city, whatever, so that there is no, I did not know, I do not understand, what's our protocol, whatever, what the fees are. I don't care if it's a little investor or if it's a big, huge corporation coming in. And the same would go for the renters. They would come in. It's just like if you're trying to get that first time money as a buyer for a home, you have to go through 12 hours of class in order to get the money from the government. They make sure that you understand what you're getting into when you purchase a house. All the financial ends of it, everything. What's the obligation? What's the responsibility? You know, how are you going to act and react when you own a home? Can the city, can they do that? Can they put a bond on these people so that if they rent and they go from house A to house B, the bond is not transferable? You have to go through a scrutinized process. You left this house, you trashed it, you lose your bond. Okay, not only does it help the landlord, but also helps the city control the movement within the city of these people that are jumping, that are drug lords or whatever they are. The point is, we can control it at the administrative end. And if we start, I think if we start at that level where anybody who comes in, it's only going to increase the quality of our renters and landlords. It's going to hold them accountable. Now, you're a renter, you want to rent, you're in Royal Oak, and all of a sudden you can't rent there because the prices go up. You want to move to Warren. Well, now you hear that the renters in the South End are drug lords, prostitutes, just an absolute a pain in the butt to live next to. Well, if we correct their action with education and hold them accountable, I think that it'll bring the quality of renters down there, because it's going to say, yeah, I do want to move down there because I know everyone down there is civil. They understand what their role is as a community person, okay? They understand how to be a good neighbor, and they understand respect and appreciation. So, I mean, it has to start, I understand, we can toughen it and make it as soft or as hard as we want. And to us, homeowners, anything that above what we're doing now is not ridiculous, okay? And if anybody, any landlord or renter comes in and says, they're being crazy over there, they want this, they want this, no. What we want is we want to make sure that our property values they're protected, our safety is protected, okay? And that our city will thrive down here instead of start dying. And that's what's happening down here. We've done nothing to control who moves in, who buys the homes, what type of education they have, or how they understand, and we have no control over them. And the one thing that the accountability portion is the most important thing that's going to turn this whole situation down here around. And it's got to start with the council.
I agree with you 100%.
One of the things that we're having a problem with too is that people are registering with the schools. I know we have a school board president here. They're registering with Centerline schools, but they're not really in Centerline. They're saying they live one place, but they live another.
That's a problem too.
And so, Mr. Vickers, if you could speak to that, because I know a lot of this is happening.
Just a cold hard fact, just before we closed down Miller Elementary over on the south end of our district, we had 270 students in the beginning of the year. By the end of that year, we had 280 new students. So that is the turnover, and I don't want to say just renters, but that is the turnover of that school in particular, so that small community. I do know for a fact that we have been been scrutinizing the addresses that some people have put in. We have actually sent people out there to make sure that they are living in that particular home.
When they register those, aren't they supposed to sign a piece of paper saying that they own that house and live in that house?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's a
Before their
couple
children
different
go there.
pieces of paper that they have to identify that they live in that property.
If I can say
Now, a lot of people, though, what they're doing is they're perjuring themselves because they're saying that they live there, but they really don't.
They don't.
They're basically lying.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Peters, if I can address one thing too really quickly. At the committee of the whole, we did, and I did suggest this, that we put a bond on the homes. That way, if a landlord...
From the landlord, though.
From the landlord.
I think it should be from the renter too, because if they have to go through a class, because if they just up and leave our community, thank you for the money.
But that's a
you know,
thought we haven't thought of, so that's what these
You know,
meetings are good
and
for.
I think that the landlord, and the renter is just as responsible for that property
Yes.
as the landlord.
There needs to be accountability
It
on
is.
both sides.
You know?
I agree. But we also discussed,
There you have it.
Yeah.
Well, it's called a security deposit. What we're talking about is that with the county
Yep.
right now, when a house is left vacant by a landlord, it goes to the county and all liens against it are erased eventually when it's foreclosed on. We're talking about a landlord. Let's say if you're a landlord, you would put a down payment then. And if your house goes into foreclosure that you're renting, then that down payment will be used to abate it. Right now,
That's
the
right.
city's paying for it. So
That's exactly, it should be
We're
off,
paying for it
yeah.
over and over and over. It
The
can't,
landlord
no.
will put in a security deposit just like the renter does. So if
Right.
the renter leaves your house, you've got your security deposit. And if the landlord's house is in disarray, then the city would get their security deposit and use that to abate it.
And I'm just saying, our city, not only in the South End, but all over, we should make it as difficult, I hate to say it, difficult as possible for somebody to come in and buy a house and rent it. Because what it'll do is, if it's difficult, only the good landlords will come in.
Your serious
Not,
landlords.
that's right, the serious landlords, not the bad landlords. You make it easy, anybody buys a house, they put it up for rent, anybody moves in, there you go. Now you're never gonna stop, we're never gonna stop this problem.
Well, we need
unless,
to make it where nobody wants to buy 200 properties.
Exactly.
And then let these ones fall through the cracks.
Exactly.
If we can caulk up the crack where they're gonna have to pay for this bundle too, they're not gonna buy bundles. We don't want it to be, I don't want a city for rent. I don't want the city to be for sale anymore. I want homeowners. There's a lot of good renters. I have very close friends that are very good people, but 6,000 rental homes, 5,000 vacant homes. We have to do
And to be
something.
fair,
We
too,
have to do something.
We did get, the city has reported that 80% of the landlords are in compliance and we don't have any problems. So
It's just 20% that are screwed.
But
So
the
it's just like anything,
20% of
you have to go after
6,000
the,
is a lot of homes if
No,
you're living
there
by
is.
it.
No, there's a lot of
The
homes.
lady right here, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I
what?
lived on Rivard,
Okay.
49 years, and there's 10 houses, and only 3 of us own our own houses. The landlords are making the money, not paying their tax, and then run up north and
And leave
build.
us with their mess,
Yes.
with
Their
their
taxes
We're
renters.
trying to clean up the mess. That's
Yeah.
basically what we're trying. And so, there's some good ideas here tonight
Yeah.
that, we can't think of everything.
One
You
of the
guys can
things
think about
that
it,
that
yeah.
idea with the bond would be, the 80% of landlords that are in compliance, that are never having their houses go into foreclosure and being destroyed by the county or the city, their money, they're not gonna lose their money. It's the 20%, you gotta hit them in the pocketbook, I think. I mean, I don't care what you say. Mr. McDaniel's right here, there's liars. I mean, those 20% are liars, let's call them like they are. They cheat, they lie, they perjure, they'll do whatever they can to get kids in different districts, or they'll do whatever they can to get their house. But if we have to have them put money up for rent, they're gonna lose their money, then we'll get them. So
The
that's
lady
what we're
right
going
here in the
after.
gray jacket, what's your name, ma'am? Jean, okay, thank you.
I got two things. One of the homes. Louder.
Yeah.
One,
Just belt it
all
out.
righty, here I
Belt it
go.
out.
One of the pictures that I gave you,
Yeah.
this house is
8228,
like
I think I got it.
three doors down from our home. That has been empty for over 10 years.
Do you know the
That,
address on that one?
no, I don't have the address.
It's on the picture.
Now I'm gonna flip it over to the school, okay?
He's not a Van Dyke.
I used to work at Henry Ford Cottage in Grosse Pointe. And we would take MacArthur down to 8 Mile. And I have seen this with my own eyes. And I swear over my children. I actually seen children in high school get off the buses on Detroit side of 8 Mile, walk across, and walk down to Lincoln High School.
It's true.
And when I had brought it up to the superintendent, who was the nastiest woman I ever talked to, she said, well, that's $7,500 a head.
That's what she said to us.
But it's not about the money. I mean, I want the money just like anybody else for our kids.
But she
It
acted
is
like it
about
was
Van Dyke
nothing.
schools, it is about the money.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things. Every school district is their own entity. The city can't tell, they have their own board, obviously, their own form of government. Fitzgerald School Board, the members there, they voted to open their district to Detroit, so they're not breaking any rules.
Right.
Van Dyke also voted for that. Centerline voted to close it, so people that are perjuring, lying to get into the Centerline district, something's to be said for what they're doing there because their enrollments remain constant. People like community schools that are with students that are from the community. And, it's easy to say,
We are open enrollment.
we're open for kindergarten, that's it.
Okay, and really
So,
quick.
so every school is different, that's why you'll see that. They're not breaking any laws, they voted to do that. Your job would be to vote that
You
board
need
out.
But
you need to
never
take
voted
this
for
group
that.
and go to your school board.
Right,
That's
go to
what you
Van
need
Dyke
to
School
do.
then.
They have meetings, find that meeting date, take
Yep.
this group, just keep going to that school board, and I highly suggest things might change for you. Elva, Ms. Giavardi?
Yes, I would suggest that you check out the rules regarding schools. At the time, open schools in the community was implemented, It was any school, if you lived in Macomb County, your child had the right to go to any school within that county.
Exactly.
You do not have the right to cross boundaries and go
Although
into Wayne
the local
or
school or any, the way the law is written, any school district that abuts another county, for example, Macomb County, Wayne County, they have the right then, that board of government.
No, they do not. I'm sorry, sir, am I not correct?
No,
I'm-
you're not.
Wayne
Not-
County.
Satellite cannot, satellite cannot open to
I
Detroit
read
because they don't.
myself.
I can't take center,
But
Detroit.
Van Dyke can and
Fitzgerald
Van
can.
Dyke can.
How can Van Dyke, but wait a minute, no, I understand
Anyway,
you're saying the school.
appreciate everybody for coming out.
I'm saying, you're saying
One
the
last
school.
one.
But I am saying to you by law, when open enrollment was implemented, it was.
I was gonna wear my
Macomb County stays within Macomb County, Wayne County stays within.
Okay, now getting back to rentals though, okay, the topic of the evening. But I would still suggest you go to your school board meeting. You gotta go. I mean, they're a level of government that we can't touch, you know? So I agree, so go to the school board meeting. Does anybody else have a certain?
I need to take off, but I just want to
Thank
thank
you
everybody for coming.
so much for being here.
Yep, and I know.
Thank you.
I do want to add to, let you know that I'm an advocate for our children. I'm also an advocate for community service. I think it should be part of a graduation requirement. I am working diligently in getting that as part of the requirement. But I'm actively have community service kids that will go out in the neighborhoods, will help pick up trash, rake leaves. You have to worry about the, cutting grass and things of that nature. They don't cut their fingers off, then I'm liable. But we do have that, and if you have, any concerns or something you need a hand with to have some kids do, feel free to give me a call anytime. I don't have no cards right now, but you
I
can
will
get
be
hold
calling
of
you.
them. Back off, lady.
I love it. So all right, so we just have a few more moments. I think we're here until.
But thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I greatly appreciate your time
I
tonight.
talked to Darrell with the good fellows, and that he said that he would like to do some work. He would get the help, and he'd like to do some work and warn for the people that wasn't able to do their own work. And
He's looking for like 20 or 30 seniors to help, right?
25.
Yeah, 25. Okay.
That telephone number is 586-651-5716.
That's if you guys know a senior that needs help in their yard. The Good Fellows has a group of men that will come in, and they're looking for 20 to 25 seniors to help them fix up some stuff in their yard.
And if you call me, I'll take care of it.
Okay, so really before we close, I just want to, does anybody else have something, another property thing? Yeah, yes.
Yeah, seeing how the discussion is on rentals, the idea is that when I go into City Hall, I went into City Hall last year, and hypothetically said, if I wanted to buy a house and rent it out, what are the procedures that I would have to go through? I had to go to 4 different departments and pick up all these disparate forms. And when I asked the questions at the different counters, I got overlapping answers that didn't congeal. Pretty much, the idea is that the tenant landlord has to go to the water department, and both tenant and landlord have to go to the water department to sign for the water. But the idea is that the disparate departments, these are all under the umbrella of public service that has an $11 million budget. And the real deal comes down to is a lot of the disputes are between tenant and landlord, and I understand that the 4 departments have to listen to the tenant did this and the landlord did that. What I find is that we have the BSNA software, which is great as far as figuring out who owns a home, who doesn't own a home.
Right.
But the real deal is all these pieces of paper should be available all in one complete packet. Every single person who's a renter or landlord in the city should basically sign for this particular copy, because the court system's overloaded, but what it really comes down to is that with the amount of rentals that we have out there, it's ultimately up to the public service division to get something in a computerized database. And if we have these rentals, the deal comes down to.
Hey guys, if we could quiet down a minute so I can hear the rest of what he's saying, please. Sorry. It's okay, Rob.
And so the idea is that it's taken years to get to this point. I mean, that's a lot of vacant homes and that's a lot of rental homes. A lot of good renters, a lot of bad renters, and it really depends on the neighborhoods. But we really have to look at the public services objective because they're the ones that pick up the trash, they're the ones that do the inspection.
Right.
Even with the police, they're around all the neighborhoods. And the idea is that you can tag a house and then rental people come by and untag it. And the real idea is that we have the BSNA software, we can run a report on homesteaded versus not homesteaded.
So we need to streamline, we
Well,
need to streamline
well,
everything.
Well, like
a
I
lot.
said, there are 4 departments, each one's with forms, each one with fees, each one with fines and stuff like that. And the most important thing is I did my Freedom of Information Act request, which was denied. The city does not have a public health officer. This is up to the county. And basically when I spoke to the county, they said you have people in the city that take care of that. But it really comes down to is that there are areas with a lot of these vacant properties where there are rats and there are squatters and there are conditions that basically this should go back to the county and the county should be providing these inspectors without charging us $110 a year. I mean, especially with the CDBG, the big packet that they provided, it'll be on the council agenda. The real thing is amending the prior commitments to local roads and to the inspection and to basically go through and offer resources to the people that need it the most, especially with renters. Renters don't have lawnmowers and they don't have snow blowers or weed whackers. And this is really part of the problem is that one neighbor calls upon another neighbor. They may offer to help, but the real deal is if everybody's on the same page, in particular I point towards the Public Service Division with their $11 million budget and say, these are the people in the field. They go down every street every week, and if there is a problem, to be able to rate the vacant houses and the rental houses on the same way that they're rating the streets. And if you have a complete packet, when somebody comes in and says, I want to buy a house, where's the paperwork?
Mr. Hartley is working on that. The last meeting you were there,
exactly.
you mentioned it.
And you know, and the idea is that the BSNA software is great because it allows anyone to tap into any other property and get an assessment of as far as what is the value, but more so if it's a rental, because I have a lot of great renters in my area, but the real deal comes down to is instead of going out and doing the blight sweeps and threatening people with tickets, provide to them neighborhood resource services without being elderly. And that's the idea is, like I say, with the CDBG, they're doing a lot in administrative costs and $200,000 to fix the road that some people drive on. Buy lawnmowers and snow blowers, rent them out at the DPW, and that's program income. I'll leave it at that, but the idea is all of these disparate pieces of information.
I would just like to thank everybody for coming out here today. Wow, when you don't like advertise a meeting, we got like a lot of really good people, and I got a lot of good-hearted people. You know, we are going to work towards this ordinance with rental. If you guys think of other things, or if you see properties, or if you see a house that's been sitting there for 10 years, you know, call me. I'm sure call Robert, call us, call me. You know, I think, you know, call me, because I will, call me and I will be there. And if I'm not, call me again and say, where are you? You know, but I will be there because I know we have a problem, and I don't think the way to fix the problem is by pretending we don't have a problem. I think we have a lot of good people. We have a lot of good people on all sides. And, you know, good dialogue, open dialogue is the way to do it. Next month, the second Friday, we're going to have another meeting like this. We'll come up with a topic, or just basic community topic, or just, you know, whatever. I feel a lot more comfortable talking to you here than I would even in a committee of the whole, which I don't know why everybody doesn't come to the council meeting. Come.
3-minute rule.
Well, but still come.
There you go.
The 3-minute rule.
Yeah,
I mean,
but 1 minute. Let me just say, I'm here till 8, and then they're gonna boo on me, so they won't boo too bad, but yes. Oh, yeah.
Last
Yeah.
comment.
This is on the recorder here. I think on your next meeting, we'll probably spend a couple of minutes going over what we did in the last meeting, so you can see progress or answer some of the questions that you asked, at least that you know there's a continuing effort going on from your voice to the council's voice. Some of it may not be as fast as you would like it, because in some cases we're trying to turn a big ship in a small pond, but at least you know they're working on it. So, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.